Hello, good afternoon. It's Rob Bell. This is Getting the Record Straight, and this is our Black Rock and Soul segment. We go over music, talk about what's going on in the arts in particular, and hope you're having a good day. And please stay safe. We're still in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and again, I hope you're adhering to the rules in terms of safe distancing and all of those good things. And I hope you're taking time to go to www.blackrocksoul.com, particularly as you might have some time on your hands these days, and listen to the YouTube playlists that I put up twice a week. I've got some great music again. Started out a new playlist this morning or last night, actually. Now, this is Monday, by the way. And have a new playlist. Some of the artists, both old and new, include Deborah Laws and De La Soul, Michael Franti. I don't know how many of you know Michael Franti. He's from the West Coast. Michael Franti and Spearhead, I believe, is the name of his band. Cody Chestnut, who I've been playing for the past week or two. This guy is really fantastic singer-songwriter. An old school number by Switch, and another vocalist I'm excited about by the name of Georgia Ann Muldrow. Georgia Ann Muldrow. So check out Black Rock Soul on the. We actually go to the website blackrocksoul.com, click on the playlist, and it will take you to the YouTube playlist. Which, if you go in through YouTube, you put R in front of Black Rock and Soul, or Black Rock and Soul, and that'll get you there also. But the easiest way is just to, go through the go through the website blackrocksoul.com, which gets you there and gets you here, by the way, also to see Getting the Record Straight. And again, this is our Black Rock and Soul segment. I was finishing up the 50s, talking about rock and roll history as it pertains to the black experience in music and how that's been overshadowed and ignored, much like everything else in America as far as black folks go. And this is really our struggle and my participation in terms of bringing the black African American experience and what has been contributions to the broader music scene, broader music historical scene, and particularly rock and roll. It's my small contribution to that. And it is really a challenge, if you will, of white supremacy, particularly as it relates to music, journalism, music history. Because as I said, the black music contributions are not included, and if they are, they're limited and certainly not presented to the degree that they should be, and that is still today. And we will go into that and see how things have been whitewashed and again the black experience limited and neutralized in terms of the overarching story of rock and roll. So we had gotten through the 50s. I want to back up for a second. I was going to get right into the 60s, but something happened yesterday or this weekend, and I was watching a show, which is pretty good too, by the way, called Cherish the Day. It's a new thing on, I want to say it's on Oprah's network, but it's another Ava DuVernay production, and it's a nice love story kind of series. But anyway, there's a guy in there who's kind of a ruffian hoodlum type dude by the name of Bone, and you've seen Bone a couple of times in different pieces, particularly Training Day, and he's a legitimate thug, and he would attest to that. Was one of the Crips, I think, in L.A. and did some time in prison, and anyway, was in Training Day. I recognized him in this new piece called "Cherish the Day." He's the one of the main characters' relatives in the story, and I was like, I know this guy, and I remembered he had done a documentary. Long short, I looked it up. The documentary is called "Bastards of the Party." Bastards of the Party. Let me encourage you. Please find that. I found it on YouTube. I saw it years ago, somewhere around 2005, 2006. It was made in 2005. And it was done, it was written and directed by this guy. His actual name is, let me find it, Clay Stone. I'm sorry, Clay Sloan. Sloan. Clay Sloan. Again, he goes by the name Bone. And he was actually when he got out of jail, he had read a book, um, and that kind of Quartz City, I believe, is the name of it. But anyway, that book talked about crime and segregation and racism in L.A. from, let's say, 1940 to 2000. And it really got him to start thinking about the life he had led and how gangs had gotten started in L.A. And anyway, he ends up doing this documentary that I saw years ago, and so I got it back on YouTube yesterday, and it is an amazing, amazing documentary. I wish I had more time to talk about it, but why I brought it up was because I knew he had made some reference to soul music, if you will, in the 40s and 50s, black music. And it confirmed for me what I said I think the last show, that really the center of rock and roll during its genesis was Los Angeles. And that's where the black music movement in the early 40s took hold, so-called rhythm and blues at that time. And as I told you, rhythm and blues was the first rock and roll. And of course, it was called race music in the 40s. But anyway, LA was the center of a bustling, transformative music at that time. This jump blues that I talked about, the singing groups, harmony groups, the slower groove kind of thing, all of that was just going off the charts in the mid and late 40s, and LA was the center of it. And this movie touches on that. It doesn't go into it deeply, but it touches on that. And it also really goes into the racism and apartheid kind of system that was going on there in LA in the 40s and 50s, and how that system of segregation and apartheid and racism really abated and the black music movement and kept it from growing and evolving as it might have otherwise. So if you get a chance, please get this Bastards of the Party and check it out. It's an amazing piece. And really, you could juxtapose that against the mythical movie that was made called L.A. Confidential, which also kind of touches on a lot of what we're talking about in the 40s and 50s in L.A. in particular. That said, let me at least get started on the 60s. When I stopped during the last show, we were saying how, or I was saying how the 50s at the end, this so-called story about the music having died, that Buddy Holly died in a plane crash with a couple other people. And basically, it ended rockabilly, for the most part. It is certainly as a national and international phenomenon, which it was. But the problem is it wasn't the only phenomenon that was going on. Indeed, the various styles of black music that constituted rock and roll at that time were also huge and also big and also having a tremendous impact. And concomitant with the music that was going on were various dance styles also. And that's, again, oftentimes not included in the discussion and in the narrative, if you will, of rock and roll, early rock and roll. Right along with that were dances that were going on, and they were done in obviously black communities, but white communities too. And again, that's overlooked, and it's overlooked because the narrative, the mainstream narrative, the white narrative, if you will, of what rock and roll is, doesn't really comport with what was actually happening, which is that there were many different styles of rock and roll. And at the center of those styles was this black music movement that was going on, albeit in very different styles, uh, uh, but nonetheless had that black sound. And the black sound was different depending on where you were. Like I said, you had the harmonies, you had the dance, up tempo, kind of band oriented music, the slower music that Fats Domino and Paul Hucklebuck Williams were doing, as well as kind of like that more bluesy, hard blues that was going on also in the Deep South. So as the rockabilly faded in the late 50s, the various black music strains were evolving, and they evolved in primarily three different areas of the country. One was Detroit, and of course that was where the Motown sound was growing up and developing. Secondly, in Chicago, where you had Chess Records, OK Records, and Kurt Tom, which was Curtis Mayfield's label, which he got into more in the mid-'60s. And the Memphis sound, which of course was Stax Records and H Records. And so we'll go into all three of those and a whole 60s movement and what was happening with the British invasion and the West Coast rock movement and that kind of stuff. As again, we explore the 60s and basically explore how rock and roll was taken to very broad paths, and actually the paths were interrelated, but really it's the media that kind of separates things and tries to categorize and distinguish things so much. But basically, there was kind of a black trajectory and a white trajectory, and they oftentimes were intermingled. There's a great deal of gray area in there. But you did have some separation that was going on. It's just that the black side of things just, really gets kind of truncated, if you will, and narrowly reported on. Excuse me. But there's a great deal to talk about on that, and we will next time. Take care. Be safe. This has been Getting the Record Straight. Excuse me. The Black Rock and Soul segment.